Thanks again, Bri, for hopping on to another episode of Untapped Stories. The first question, I always like to take it back, maybe to like before you became a mom, before you became a sports parent, and kind of built the lifestyle that you have now. Just so the audience and everyone listening, parents and young athletes, know what were sports like for you growing up as a young athlete, and how did that maybe shape the mentality and kind of the way that you parent today?
I've always loved sports, but I didn't get heavily involved in sports until I was in high school. I actually had my high school basketball coach beg me to join the team. And I said, no, I'm 5'11". So, of course, they wanted me on the team because I'm tall. So they're like, we want you to join. And I was like, no, like, that's not my thing. I'm not into, like, I just want to watch it. Like, yay, go LeBron. But I'm not in it like that. And he kept begging me. He was like, just join. Like, you're going to love it. So I joined the basketball team my freshman year of high school. I dabbled in, like, little things when I was a kid. Like, I played softball, like, one season and hated it and whatnot. So I started basketball and it completely changed my life for multiple reasons. Not because I went on to become some, WNBA player, but it taught me so many valuable lessons. That coach was one of the most pivotal people in my entire life. So it makes me emotional because he passed away in 2015. But the way that I look at things now in life is so much more focused. And now it's led into parenting on focus on like my grit and my resilience and my independence and also dependence on other people and working with a team and the things that I crave out of life. So much of that started there because it's just sent me in a different trajectory, not sports geared, but just the way that I show up in life. And so I think that impacted me a lot and the decisions that I make for my kids now when it comes to their sports and their coaching, the lessons that I teach them within that. And it just started with just playing basketball in high school, and then I fell in love with it. Probably could have went off to play at a higher level if I started maybe earlier. Life has a funny way of putting you where you're supposed to be. Life, God, whatever you believe in. I had my daughter my junior year of college, and now here we are. So
that's amazing. It
taught me a lot of great life lessons that I think every kid should be involved in sports. I really do. Even if they say they don't like it, that was me. And it changed my life. So I love it.
That's so great to hear, because we have so many athletes and that want to play professionally, but, not everyone's going to make it there and most aren't. Mm-hmm. So knowing that the lessons you learn in sports are going to help you in other aspects of life is really Absolutely. Awesome. That brings me to one of my questions specifically. I know you mentioned that a lot of the things that you learned in sports have helped you in life. Mm-hmm. Are there specific lessons that you see your kids already learning being on a team that they probably couldn't learn elsewhere?
I think the biggest ones are discipline and resilience. I think that those are two characteristics because I'm a firm believer, like we say raising children, but really we're raising adults and we're raising people that when they turn 18 or maybe if we keep them around a little longer, maybe in their early 20s, they have to go out and they have to live actual life with other people, different rules, like we want them to be successful. And so for me, the lessons that I want them to learn, and I see it impacting the way that my teenager is in school, the way that they are with their friendships, everything is discipline and resilience. And people might not relate discipline and resilience to friendships, but it actually is. Like, you have to understand what it really means to commit to something, and sports teaches that. What I believe as a parent, and I know it's not everybody's belief, but I believe that when you say yes to something, you fulfill that responsibility, and then you can go and review later on and decide if it's something you want to continue on or not. But with kids in sports, they have to wake up early for practices. I mean, my teenager when she was in 7th grade, she's in 8th grade now, but when she was in 7th grade, she had to wake up at 5:30 in the morning to be at school by 6:45 for practice before school. So they have to wake up early. They have to understand how nutrition affects their performance. So they have to commit to eating better. If they want to be, a better athlete, they have to show up even when they're tired, even when they don't want to go to practice. They have to learn how to balance different responsibilities like schoolwork and keeping the room clean and personal hygiene and sports, and I think that kind of consistency and discipline is a life skill that I don't think you learn that in anything else. And I mean, dance and stuff, those are still athletics, but it's the commitment level of like, I committed to you, I'm on your team. I have to show up for myself, but I have to show up for you as well. And that's how you're going to get to what you want. And then the other side of that is resilience, because life is going to knock you down more often. I mean, we're all adults here. I don't know how many times, I can't even count the amount of times where I've been disappointed. I've lost something, something hasn't gone the way that I want. But I think in sports, you learn that failure isn't final and it's not the end. So like you can miss a shot or you can lose a game or you can want to be a professional athlete and then it just doesn't happen, but you can come back stronger the next time. You can learn, you can get better, you can improve. And I think that's huge in life. Mm-hmm. And I'm all for life lessons because this is a season. Yep. They're not going to be athletes forever. Even if they're professional athletes, they're not going to be athletes forever. And so I just think it's an important life lesson that if you get knocked down, you get back up. And I'm just really proud because I feel like my girls already know that and they incorporate that into life. Not that they don't have emotions. You know, there are days that my teenager is like, everything's falling apart. And then we sit in that for a minute and then we figure out a solution and we say, we committed to doing this. We're resilient. We get back up and we keep moving forward. And so that's what I think it is.
I feel like we've heard that from a couple people that have done like mental performance training, mental performance coaching. Mm-hmm. It's kind of similar to what you said. And I love the aspect that you're not, even if you don't become that professional player, who you become as a person along the way is way more important than the outcome. So it sounds so cliche, but it truly is the journey, not the outcome. I guess
absolutely.
With everything going on nowadays, flipping into one of my questions, and you've kind of brought up your daughter, 13 years old. I'm sure every kid goes through this now, but doesn't have a good day. Maybe it's the team they're on, it's not a good fit, not getting as much playing time, or even like social media in today's world. And there's so many potential routes for this one. But what do you think is the hardest part about being a sports mom nowadays?
I could say all of the little things. I mean, we kind of talked about it in the beginning about there's a million little stressors like, oh, I've got 2 kids in sports, so I've got 2 games to be at the same time. You know, very grateful that I have a husband and a family that is able to support that. And I think that in and of itself is an important aspect, is having a good support system. And there's all the little intricacies like, you know, the putting the gas in the tank or the time spent or having the toddler. All of those things are little. But I think for me, the biggest struggle as a mom is watching, especially my teenager and then my preteen struggle, because I can't physically and immediately fix it for them. And as parents, we're like, I just want to fix it right away. I don't want to watch you cry. I don't want to see you sad. So when they have a bad game or when they miss the game-winning shot or when they're like, I want to score a goal today and then they don't, it feels like, or you know, they might feel like they've let you down or your team down. And they feel it, but you feel it. And so it's like, it's empathy on a whole nother scale. And so that's probably the hardest part as a mom, is like navigating that, because my instinct as a mom is to immediately excuse it, hold them, coddle them for lack of better terms, and just really because I want to protect them and smooth it over. And I believe also on the same time in sports, you can't do that because again, with life lessons, you have to let them sit in it and process it and figure out, okay, like, how do I come back from it? How do I bounce back and not sit in this? So, you know, I mentioned it, it's like, feel the emotions, understand it, process it, and then what do we do to get back on it? And it's hard. And that's, I think, the hardest thing as a sports mom is, you know, watching them on the field, knowing their potential, knowing how much this is going to hurt them when they don't perform the way they want to. But I also believe it's where the best growth happens. You don't have the best growth when you're scoring 10 goals a game and you never lose. The growth happens in the moments that you feel crappy about. And so for them, I think it's hard, but also for me as a mom, it's heart-wrenching. It hits you right in the chest. But then it's just that I try to have a future-focused mentality of, this hurts right now, but this pain is temporary, and it's teaching them a lesson to be a better human, a better person, more productive, more successful, and more resilient. So that's the hardest part, but also I try to look at the silver lining.
That's a great mindset, though.
That takes me to one question that I hear it brought up a lot about the car ride home, especially after, it could be after a great win or after a really tough loss, and that's a very sensitive time. And some, you know, what is your strategy for those conversations on the car ride home, especially after a tough loss?
I used to be the mom in the beginning that would just, this is what you should have done. This is what you did wrong. And I learned pretty quickly, as parents, we have so much passion behind it. And it's not, and most parents are not intentionally trying to make it worse. We want to make it better. We want to smooth it. We want to fix it, like I was just saying. So I used to be, do this, this, and this. I kind of reflected a little bit, which I think all sports parents need to do. Listen, I'm hardcore. I am anti-participation trophies, and I am like, we go out there, we go 110%, but at the same time, there's a mental aspect of it, an emotional aspect of it that is important to navigate. And so I used to be that mom, but now I have found that what I do is I just let them know, like, hey, I understand, it's going to be okay. Like, what do you think you could have done better? And then either they say, my teenager says, I don't know. And then I say, well, if you did know, what would it be? And I just kind of pull that out of her and let her give herself the coaching rather than me give the 30-minute talk on the way home. Also, I never played soccer, and my kids are soccer players, so she doesn't really respect what I have to say anyways. But I kind of just pull that out of her, because the thing is they're the ones going to practices. They're the ones with their coach. So they know what to do. And if I can pull that out of her, now she is able to review those situations and then go out and practice and fix it next time. Now, if it's a problem that she's having with the coach or, say, a fellow teammate, then I try to be understanding and say, like, hey, like, I understand, like, this is frustrating. You don't like when this happens. And then I just let her know, like, hey, no one's perfect. You're not perfect. You've had bad games. If it's an issue with coach, you need to go talk to coach. And if you can't, then I will come and help you. And then if it's an issue with a teammate, like, say somebody's not showing up to practices or they're not doing what they're supposed to on the field, I just let them know, like, hey, I'm sure coach is addressing it. And then if it's an attitude thing, I let them know we don't know what happens in other people's lives. All we can do is control ourselves. So let's figure out how we can be nicer, kinder, a better teammate, and then better on the field to support them, because at the end of the day, you're a team. And so I've had a lot of personal development in life, but I'm navigating parenthood. It's the first time being a parent to a 13-year-old. So those are just the conversations I try to have, is just calm rather than validating the anger that they have when they don't play well. I don't validate the anger. I just say, it's going to be okay. Like, let's figure out how we can get better and improve next time. And that cuts out the tears very fast. I used to yell at her and be like, if you are more aggressive, then you're going back to club. And that didn't fix anything. It just made her mad, and it made me mad. And then we were mad at each other. So that's how I approach it now. And she's happier. She performs better overall. And then I'm happier on the sidelines because she's performing better and happier.
We had a sports psychologist on. I think they mentioned exactly what you said. The first thing kids need is just a supportive environment. Doesn't matter if the mom or dad played high level or not. Like, if they know their parents are there and they have their back, everything else kind of flows smoothly. But if they feel like they have their team, the game, and their parents to fight, then it's just like they're always fighting an uphill battle. What about, and kind of like you said, you're going through parenting for the first time. I know we mentioned before the call, I'll be going through it in 11 years, and I'm sure the landscape for a 13-year-old in 11 years will be way different. But in today's day and age, 2025, with social media being such a big presence, how do you handle that now as a parent with the access to social media? Do you let your daughter go on apps like whenever she wants, or do you have restrictive? Because I know a lot of parents differ. Like, no apps, some or all. But what's your social media take?
I feel like I'm very qualified to speak on this. I don't have a degree or anything, but I've been working on social media for 10 years. My full-time income is social media. This is all I do: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. So I know all of the things. And my daughter, she's 13. She has a phone. She got her first phone when she was 10. It is locked in that she can't download apps, and she's not allowed to have social media. However, I should say sometimes I let her watch YouTube videos on my YouTube account, and she's not allowed to have anything with like a messenger or a DM, any apps that has anything like that. However, being that I am on social media and I know the landscape of things now is I do have an Instagram account for her that I manage and she doesn't have access to. So I talk to her about what videos of her I'm putting up, because, if I might think it's a cool move on the soccer field, but she doesn't think so. She's like, wow, I was selling whatever these kids are saying. And I'm like, okay, well, I won't post that. So I do have conversations with her, but this is a social media world. And so I think saying, I'm not going to do anything to do with my kids in sports, I just don't know if that's realistic. But I do think there are avenues in which you can make it a little bit better. So I do show my kids on social media, but if my daughter doesn't want to be on it, I don't. And then I talk to her before I post any videos of her. But she does have an Instagram dedicated to her sports that I lead, and she has no social media access. Her friends do, but so I can't necessarily control what happens at school and whatever, but I kind of just let that go. And on her phone, she does not. So I personally do not support social media for kids until she can drive. Then it probably will never happen. And even then, I don't know. We'll see.
Quickly, super curious. I know Matt's got a question, but the social media aspect of having a page for the sports team, is that for recruiting? Or is that just so your daughter... Okay. Oh, nice. Okay.
It is for recruiting. So that's the only purpose. She has dreams to play college soccer. And when she's wanted to be a professional soccer player since she was like 4. And so I believe that it's my job, knowing the stats. You know, I also understand that most people will never get a social media following. Most people will never make money online. Well, I have. So I understand that statistics are one thing, but it's my job as a parent to be as supportive and create an environment that's conducive to her dreams. So with all that being said, she doesn't want to play collegiate, and her soccer coach has an Instagram page for their team. All the soccer clubs have it. And from my understanding, because she's not in college yet or being recruited, but based on conversations with other people, is that the recruiters do look at social media. It is now their highlights. So rather than sending in a tape, and I could be wrong, I'm not there yet, like I said, but that is my understanding. So we do post on that for that purpose, but anything other than that, it's I'm leading it. I'm the one taking the videos, the recording, posting it on there, being that rah-rah mom, and that's about it.
Interesting. I like that.
That's so interesting how the landscape has changed, like with sending highlights versus having to mail in tape or CDs 10, 15 years ago. But I wanted to go into, particularly with your 13-year-old daughter, playing club, playing travel. It's a lot, I'm sure, on her. How do you know when to, I guess, push your kids and when to let them rest to manage? You know, I know you don't want to have, potential burnout. And with soccer particularly, there's a lot of travel games. So how do you manage that?
Oh, that's a great question. I will tell you, I take on obviously a million times of a mental load, but again, I like to look at things future focused. And so I just remind myself of this is a chapter of our lives. It's a chapter of my kid's childhood. And I don't know what the future holds, but again, it's my job to do what I can to make that happen. So we have conversations before every season starts, because I believe in commitment. So we have a conversation before the season starts. Is this something that you want to do? Yes. Okay, great. So we sign up. You're committed for the season. It is a non-negotiable. So that's kind of how we work with the actual season wide. As far as like games here, being super busy, traveling, running around, we just do. It's a juggling act. It's not easy. But when she doesn't have practices or games, it's get to bed early. When she has practices and games, okay, well, I'm going to try and prep dinner before we go. It's not a perfect system. I don't think you can. So if you're very, very, very type A, you're going to be really stressed out as a parent with a kid in a lot of sports. Me, I'm kind of more go with the flow. I'm like a type C, somewhere in the middle of there. And I just have this mentality that this is a chapter, and there's going to be a day where I wish I was sitting on the sidelines watching them play again. And so for me, that's what I do. And for them to balance it, I am not afraid to not have my kid go to school a day because she needs to sleep. If she's tired, she might sleep until like 10 or 11, and she's just going to sleep in. So I encourage them to rest. We have to explain to her about food a lot. That's something that I do. And it might not seem like a big deal for balance, but it is. If your kids are eating crappy snacks, they're going to be tired. They're going to get hurt. They're not going to perform as well. And then they don't want to play. So it's all of that kind of mixed in together. Yeah, we just kind of make it fun. Mini vacations. We do, for my 9-year-old, she knows after she plays really hard at a game, we go get boba because that's like her thing. Or like my 13-year-old, she'll want to go get canes or whatever. So we just make it fun. Mini vacations. It's our family time. We have conversations. We sing in the car. Otherwise, you'll get burned out really fast because it is a grind. And we just find sleep where we can. I don't really, I wish I had a perfect system, but I don't, because sometimes we don't know the game times until 2 days before. So we're just trying to make it work and just remembering that this is chosen chaos. I kind of said that we chose this chaos. We just kind of go with the flow and lean into it and have fun.
Sure, schedules, probably not finding the right field. I remember getting a list back in the day of like, you're on field H, and it's like, okay,
Oh my gosh.
There's no Google Maps for field H. Like, how do we get there?
Thank goodness for team moms for sending maps and chats. So that is really
Sure, that's
nice.
come a long way.
No paper maps anymore.
No.
Like MapQuest and
No, I have gone to the wrong location for my daughter's recital once, and we made it with 2 minutes to spare. I was like, oh my gosh.
Honestly, just once is pretty good with like 2 kids between 13 and 9. I'm sure I will miss.
Yeah, we do a pretty good job. I mean, I'm not. We do a pretty good job.
One other question, Bri, I wanted to ask, maybe for not a warning to parents, but just an insight into like how crazy and chaotic it can get. What's maybe one of your funny or crazy or insane sideline stories that you've seen? Maybe not you, but other parents do at teams where it's like you never want to be that parent.
Oh gosh, you don't want to be that parent. Well, I have been that parent before, but I would tell you my biggest pet peeve as a person who's not that parent. I am very loud and vocal, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it. By the way, I think people kind of like make it sound like if you're loud or if you're screaming a lot or if you're vocal, it's a bad thing. It only becomes a bad thing if you are mean, negative, condescending, cursing, or like calling out specific kids on the other team by their number. That has happened to us many times. My daughter is 5'4" and like 140 pounds, and she's all muscle, and she's bigger than all of the other girls. So she tends to be a brick wall during soccer, and other parents don't like that. And she's got a heart of gold. She's not intentional about anything, but when you start calling out kids on the other team by numbers and names and you start being mean, that's when you become that parent that really no one likes, and also your kids don't like it and they're embarrassed. So I wouldn't do that. But I would say like my most like positive thing as like a mom is, and what I would encourage moms moving forward is, don't ever be afraid to advocate for your kid. Just because you aren't the coach or just because you might not know everything. And again, you have to do everything with respect and good intentions. But, I remember my daughter was playing for a team, and I had a conversation with the coach, and I said, hey, like she really wants more directed coaching. She's wanting to play at a higher level. She's asking for this. Can she try out for a higher level team? And I was told no. And listen, I respect it. That's cool. And I also understand parent bias. We always think our kids are better than maybe what other people think they are. I said, but it's my job as her mom to give her the opportunity to grow and excel. So when I was told no, I said, okay, fine. We're going to go look at other teams. And I remember we went to another team. It's a team she plays for now. And she went to the practice, and the coach said to another parent, do I have to fight to get her? And it was seeing that, like, another person outside of our bubble say, like, she has so much potential. I see the hunger. I see that she wants to grow. Like, I want her on the team. And seeing what we saw or seeing what she wanted was an eye-opening experience for me, because it just reminded me that, like, sometimes it's uncomfortable to have conversations or to change environments or to maybe go to a different team. I believe loyalty is important, but I also believe that it's important both ways. And so when she was told, when I was told that she didn't have the opportunity and we decided to go somewhere else, it was the best decision we made. And it was a hard decision because she also had to leave a team that her best friend was on. But it was in that moment, we just had to decide, where is she going to grow and thrive? And the difference in not only just the way that she plays, but her happiness level, because she feels more supported on all angles. We've always been there, but she feels more supported by her coach. She feels more supported by the girls playing. It's just been a complete 180. And so it taught me, this is for the parents, that you should trust your gut. Do everything respectfully, do everything with good intentions, but always fight for your kids to be where they will shine. Not where is the most expensive, not where is the fanciest or whatever, but where they will shine, where they will feel good, because then you pull something out of them that otherwise would have been dormant. So that was like the turning point for me. It was a big lesson that I think people don't talk about.
That's really interesting. And you brought up too about making that switch, and your daughter's really good friend being on that team. We've had people come on and mention the importance of relationships and developing those relationships through sports. How do you still keep in contact with the parents from that other team, or those relationships you built?
Yeah, it's so funny. Like it's actually more fun, I feel like now. When she left, a lot of the other girls had left the team as well, and they all kind of went. So her best friend stayed on the team, and they go to school together, and they still hang out. They're still best friends. They come to each other's games. But also some of the other girls that went to other teams, we still see them. They come to her birthday party. I talk to the parents. We are actually playing one of their teams this weekend, and it's just fostered into this really cool thing. And I think it's a good life lesson. You're going to switch jobs, switch towns, switch things all the time, and being able to maintain relationships when you're not in the bubble is so important. And really just move forward. Like, no, we're not on the same team anymore, but we can still be friends because I like you and I like your energy and I like who you are as a person. And maintaining that is a whole different ballgame than, oh, I'm only friends with you because I'm in class with you, or I'm only friends with you because we have practice together. That's one relationship. Yes, it's valuable, it's good. But can you teach them how to keep connections and keep networks? Because that, again, is going to serve them in the future. Like, it's not just about who do you talk to every single day, but who do you really value and love and care about? And like, yeah, we might be on different teams, but how do we can still navigate that? And I think that, especially with what I do now, like I have friends that do all different things. And that's beautiful.
That's going to go such a long way too. I mean, I just know sometimes like I feel like I want to, need to be better at, whether if I'm switching jobs or something, maintaining those relationships. I think your daughter having that experience now is really going to help later on in life.
Even if it's a good boat for the future, Bri. My wife played college soccer. She played at Temple, but pretty much all of her friends in her network, they're still soccer. But there's girls that she played with maybe for like 2 seasons on a travel team in 6th and 7th grade. But those girls are still some of her best friends versus girls that she played with for like 10 years. So I think going back to what you said for parents, probably the biggest message that I took away was like, just do what's best for your kid and their growth. If they have good friends, if you have good friends on the team, if you like them that much, you will stay friendly with them. But don't make that decision just based on being tight with one buddy. You got to look out for your kid and advocate.
Absolutely.
I guess maybe so you have an interesting spot. You have a 13-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 2-year-old. Maybe if you could go back and talk to yourself, like say if you just had a 2-year-old now, but knowing what you know, what's one big piece of advice you would give to youth sports parents who are just starting out?
Oh my gosh. One big thing. I think I would say, like, as your kid is growing, just look at them, because I think it's so easy, especially in rec, and also in the club also, but just look at them. And what I mean by that is we might look at like, oh, my kid is playing, I only know soccer verbiage at this point, but they're playing center back, and I want her to score. And so I want her to play forward because Sally over here, she's scoring. She's always scoring. Meanwhile, you're forgetting that your child is defending all of these goals. And so often we get caught up in like, oh, this kid is doing that. This kid is doing that. The coach is doing that with this kid. This kid's excelling. This kid's going to club and we're still in rec. And just focus on yours. When they're little bitty, focus on like getting them to kick the ball, getting them to learn skills. And yes, the team is so important. I talk about commitment, but your team could win every game and your kid is not growing as an individual. And again, teams are going to separate. They're going to go off and they might be in different high schools. They might be in different, they're going to be in different colleges. And it's so easy to get caught up in this, like who's starting and who's scoring and who's being scouted at this time. And it not only steals the joy, by the way, like, because that's annoying and stressful. Who wants to worry about everyone else's kids? I mean, I got 3, right? So I don't have time, but I remember I would get so stressed out about like, well, is she, honestly, this goes even back to like walking. Like, is your kid sitting up at the same time as another baby? Is your kid walking as fast as that kid's walking? Some kids are going to be horrible at the sport until they're in like 7th grade. And then they have a coach that transforms the way that they play and transforms the way that they think about the game. And they turn into a legend. I mean, we've watched this in professional sports. We've watched it. Kids get cut from teams and turn out to be the GOAT, right? We've seen it happen. And so if we can just understand that our kids are different, they're unique individuals, and their development both in life and in sports is going to be unique. Again, it teaches lessons that they'll take on forever. And the years go by fast. As somebody with a 13-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 2-year-old, I used to hate it when people say, you're going to blink and it's going to be over. But it's true and it sucks. But it's also fun. So if you can just sit in the moment, cheer for your kid, obviously cheer for the other kids, but stick to the things that matter. Sportsmanship, grit, resilience, commitment, growth. And those are the things that'll set them up for success. And you guys, everyone will be happier.
That's a great message.
That's incredible. Yeah. And I think one of the mistakes that sometimes people make is always comparing themselves to others. And I think sometimes parents have that too, where they're like, oh, well, this kid's doing this. Everyone goes at their own pace. We kind of touched on this earlier, but you mentioned being a vocal person on the sideline. How do you manage your emotions on the sideline? There's anything you use to do that, especially when your kid is struggling? How do you stay positive?
I have like a mental thing, and then I actually have a tactical thing. So I cheer really loud now, but when I used to get really like yelling at the refs and stuff, the embarrassing things, I don't do that as often anymore. But we're not allowed. We'll get kicked out of the game. They'll send us to the parking lot. They are so strict. So you really have to learn to control your mouth when you are on the sidelines nowadays, which rightfully so. But I would I kind of go to this place and I just remind myself that every single time I say something that's not nice, kind, or encouraging, it's like punching my kid. And that sounds so dramatic, okay? But I can see her head and her shoulders fall the moment I say, you need to be more aggressive. Like if I say something like that, I can physically see her shrink. And once I was really aware of that, because I was really tuned in, I was like, wow, I have to change the way that I speak. Not that you can't say, be aggressive, but I'll say something like, fast and strong. So that more encouraging words, or I'll say all gas, no brakes, all gas, no brakes. Things that are more encouraging rather than you need to be aggressive or you need to run faster. And I think those are our default, telling them what they need to do. And it's discouraging. Not that you can't yell, you can't scream. I mean, if anything, I feel like they want to hear you. They want to know you're there. They just don't want to be feeling like they're getting punched every single time you're yelling. So I switch my verbiage. I'm just really cognizant of that. And, I say, go blue or go white or whatever, things like that. But it's really more of I call it with my toddler, I call it yes language instead of no language. So instead of saying to my toddler, you don't get to watch TV, I'll say, when you eat your eggs, I'll turn your show on. So I use more of this yes language than no language. And I do that on the field now too. And it's completely transformed. She's also, my 13-year-old is way more open to talking to me about it because she doesn't feel like everything I say is condescending. And then on a tactical thing, if it's getting really intense, I just become a photographer. Okay, I know that sounds probably so crazy. I bought a $700 camera because the moment that I put the camera up, I can't yell at her anymore because I'm just focused on let me take a picture of her cool movements. Or you can just use your phone as well, but maybe that's probably not everybody's best advice, but for the people who are super you get a lot of anxiety, you get stressed out, it's a game that makes you want to stand up and scream and you're just angry. I just turn into a photographer and I just capture the moment rather than try and coach the moment. And that has been very beneficial for me in those stressful games.
I've never heard of that. That's so cool. I mean, it's so like you said, you can't. I don't know. I'm just trying. You can't yell into the camera. I mean, if you get that worked up.
I mean, you can't. It's right here. You're like, what are you saying? You're not doing that.
That's so cool. I remember you kind of.
It works for me, anyway.
It sounds like you kind of switched that mentality. And before my last question, I remember my dad, when I was a kid, he would never say a word about me, even if I could tell that it was and I wanted to hear his voice there. It was always just go team or play defense. If I made a mistake and I knew it, all I would hear is all right, team, go play defense. And internally I knew that was Gene, you suck, pick it up. But he would never yell it from the sideline. It was just all right. So it's nice to hear that your parents are there, but it's like you said, it's got to be not individual. It's got to be focused on something just positive. So
yeah, I mean, they know they messed up, right? They know. You don't have to drive it home.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. They already know.
And you brought it up earlier, Bri. I didn't plan to ask this, but you kind of touched on it, and I love hearing parents' takes, especially at your age. I feel like when you get to high school, college, it's different. You're on a team with probably coaches who are getting paid, so it's a different dynamic. But when you're dealing with elementary and middle schoolers, and there's a bad coach situation. Maybe your kid's not playing as much as you want, or you like generally just don't like the coach, but you like the team. How do you handle the coach-player dynamic with your kids? Do you let the kids have the total relationship and you kind of step out, or do you step in at a certain time if it gets to a point where you feel like you need to?
It's kind of a loaded question because I feel like you have to take it case by case, because if it's detrimental to your kids' mental or progress with their skills, then that's our job to step in and say, like, there's plenty of times for my daughter. I remember my daughter played on a rec team and they didn't even have a coach. Okay. Some parents, not even a parent, like some older brother stepped up to coach, wasn't there half the time, but she loved everyone on the team. And she didn't want to leave the team because she really liked everyone. But it's my job to say, listen, I know you feel this way right now, but this is not conducive to any type of growth. So I have to find someone or another team that is more conducive. So I think you have to take it case by case and team by team. The last team that my daughter was on, she loved everyone on the team. Again, it was her best friend was on the team. And so how I navigated that is I tried to find solutions before we left. And I think that so often parents like, oh, my kid's not playing enough, or whatever problem. And they're like, we're just going to leave. And I don't think that's the answer either. I think if you, again, I say it a million times and I'm sick of it. If you want to teach your kid good life lessons, it's that you don't run the moment you don't like something, or you don't run away the moment one thing doesn't go the way that you want, or your coach or your partner or your friend isn't acting exactly how you want them to. That's not conducive to anything in life. And so you have to attempt to find solutions first. And when you've now exhausted what you believe those are, then you can pivot and go somewhere else. And so, prior to leaving her team, we didn't just say, and it wasn't one conversation we had. We had a parent meeting where I was very vocal and voiced all my opinions. By the way, if you ever have to have a parent meeting, always focus on facts over feelings, because feelings are temporary and they're, subjective to each individual. Whereas facts, you can't argue facts. Like this is the facts, and this is the way you come at it, and that's how you approach conversations, in my opinion, with especially coaches, because there's a lot of emotions and personalities that you're dealing with because you're dealing with kids and parents. And if you want to approach a conversation with the coach, it has to be facts over feelings. Not, I feel like you don't like my kid. Not like, I feel like my kid gets any playing time, but like more along the lines of, my child is getting 2 minutes on the field while every other player is getting 45. Like, if you're going to go in, you got to be ready and prepared to have the facts over the feelings. And so we had a parent meeting. I had a conversation with the coaches. And I actually was like, hey, we're not going to leave. And then I did have a conversation with them that ultimately resulted in us leaving. So there's no anger, there's no yelling, there's no bad feelings. I just think if you're going to make a decision, one, you need to have actual reasons why, not just your feelings. And then you need to have conversations prior. So my 9-year-old, we actually are on a new team this year than she was last year, but it's rec, so it's not as big a deal. Her coach was amazing, but every single player had never played soccer before that was on the team. That's not conducive to her growth. Yeah. When you're the best one on the team, you're on the wrong team.
Yeah, that's a good quote.
If you're the smartest one in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Yeah.
So that's how I feel. And so, I think somewhere in the mid-level is the perfect place to be.
That's really smart thinking.
When you were talking about, facts over feelings, I've seen it when I played other parents or going to coaches kind of yelling and screaming, and no one's really listened to that. They just hear the yelling and the screaming. So going with like a calm demeanor is so important. Yeah. I had one separate question, because I think it applies to all parents who have multiple kids playing sports, but I'm sure you've had times where your kids have games that overlap, or it might be your oldest daughter who has 2 different teams, or games that are conflict, or something that there's a conflict with school. How do you handle those scheduling conflicts as parents?
I kind of put it on this priority list. Priorities always are family. So let's say, for example, like on my 2-year-old's birthday, if she would have a game that she was not required to be at, like, okay, so she has 25 people on the roster, which, by the way, people think that that's a lot. It's not. When you get into youth sports, you start to really understand that like half those kids don't show up. Right. So But family's always first, right? So we don't skip for little things, but we might not be there if we are doing something very important. Now, it has to be really important. And then comes school, because above all else, her education is important. So if she is failing, my children have never failed, but if it came down to it, that would take precedence. We're not going to be paying to play if you can't make sure that you're keeping your grades at a good level. Then we come down to, probably not everybody agrees with this, but priority is my oldest, and then my second, and then my youngest, because my oldest is closest to future, closest to high school, recruiting, college. Not that my middle child is less than, we are at as much as we can, but if it's just me one day and both kids have somewhere they have to be, I go with the oldest, and then my parents will go with my middle child. And then we may switch off for the next time. So we'll switch. That's a whole nother thing. But that's how we prioritize it. But also, I can't tell you how important it is to have a good support system. Like, I married an incredible man, and my family is very important. So if you don't have a support system, you have to intentionally create it. Like, you have to go and you have to find people that are going to be there for you, and not just be like, oh, I wasn't born into perfection and whatever, I have to go find it. And then as far as my husband and I, because we do have a lot of games at the same time. So, for example, my 9-year-old has practice on Thursdays and my 13-year-old has games on Thursdays. So we switch. So one of us is always somewhere. We will never, ever, ever drop our child off at a practice and leave. We'll never do that. We will never drop our child off at a game and leave. Now, I know that there are parents that can't do that, and I understand it. But what I will say is, like, try your hardest, because they remember. And if you don't think they do, well, I married the man who does. So he remembers who was at his games in high school. He remembers who was not there. And at almost 40 years old, it's still something that kind of hurts in his heart. And so I would encourage you to be as much as you can and build your life around your kids, not your kids around your life, and what your kids love. If it is sports, if they don't love it, then they don't need to do sports. But obviously we're talking about sports. So that's kind of what we do. We just prioritize it, and the list will go up. So once my oldest is off to doing her own thing, or as my 9-year-old, as she gets more into, like, wants to be more serious in club and, like, moving into, like, middle school and high school, then those start to take a little bit more priority, because she's moving up this chain of progress in her athletics. And the 2-year-old just tags along with us everywhere.
She'll have her day one day all by herself.
Yeah,
when you're 9-year-old,
all by herself, right?
She'll feel like
must
an
be
only
nice.
Actually, I know Matt and I asked a lot, but I just want to double down on that point. I feel like we talk to a lot of people, and as we get older, I mean, I'm in my 30s, Matt is too. It's like you just kind of forget. Well, I don't personally forget, but a lot of people would assume, oh, they're kids playing sports, like they'll just have fun and figure it out. Man, I still think about youth sports, and because we do this as a business, but it's like that's such a pivotal time in a kid's life, and they want their parents to be there. It's where pretty much all of my best friends come from sports. So, like, if you can foster a good environment for a kid and really help them have they're not going to be all pro players, but like have a good experience and enjoy it, that will carry them through life, set them up with confidence. Like, but it's a lot on the parents. So honestly, kudos to you guys, and shout out to you for having those priorities, stacking it, doing it well. And yeah, I mean, it sounds like you guys are crushing it as parents. So
I mean, I do think we are. Not that it's not easy. I mean, it's not easy, but it's really rewarding, and I love it. You have to love it.
Yeah,
you have to.
And I mean, you can't really shy away from the trips. Like you said, have a family time. You got to, like, turn what could be a negative into a positive. But there's just a lot of new sports nowadays, and it's a different landscape than when I was growing up, for sure. But I mean, there's still plenty of good ways to navigate it. So.
Absolutely.
Honestly, Bri, your feedback was awesome. We loved getting your opinion. So thank you for coming on and sharing it with the audience. We really appreciate it.
Of course, anytime.
Thank you, Bri. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.